1994, the Oslo Accords, what they did, they gave the majority of the Gaza Strip basically to the Palestinians, and the Israelis still had, in the northern part, some kibbutzes which they left there, etc., for them. In 2005, Prime Minister Sharon, for security reasons, said, let's have these Palestinians have the whole thing for the most part. We're still going to have still control in the north. And so he takes all, if you remember, all of the Jewish settlers out of Gaza back to Israel, and it was a big struggle. And so, again, Israel maintained a checkpoint in the north. In 2006 to 2007, the parliamentary elections, Hamas was chosen to take over Gaza, not the PLO. Okay. And in that time frame, money started to pour in from different countries, okay, to build what? To build schools, to build apartment buildings, to build hospitals, but also secret armament sites and tunnels. Today, 70% of the buildings in Gaza have Hamas tunnels under them. 71%. So you could imagine, when you read in the newspaper about the tunnels, trying to get into the tunnels, where are they? It's like a maze. It's a huge maze. So since 2014, the cycle of violence against Israel continued with a barrage of rockets into Israel. Now, their main supporter is Qatar, along with many other, and Iran, along with many other militant Islamic organizations that give Hamas $300 million a year. Then we had October 7th, with that demonic and barbaric massacre of 112 people, 1,200 Israelis, including 30 children, were massacred by these Hamas people. And also that included the music area that they had. They included them in that number of 1,200 people, Jews being men, women, and children. Now, they took some 240 hostages at that time, and they brought it back to Hamas strongholds. Now there are a remaining balance of 134 hostages, but who knows how many hostages are on by this time. It's a very difficult situation. So Israel retaliated with a very quick response and began a final war against Hamas with 300,000 IDF soldiers. Okay? Now, one has to understand what the Israelis are feeling. Okay? A Jewish person has reacted so strongly against Hamas. What are the terrible memories that Jews have in their history, whether it be the various pogroms in Russia, the Inquisition, the Holocaust? For the IDF, they have two main objectives. One, to annihilate Hamas, and secondly, the return of the hostages. That's their goal. Now, on the other side of the coin is always a question of proportionality. Okay? Now, so far, 10,000 Hamas terrorists have been killed out of 30,000, okay, by the Israelis. But how many innocent Palestinian Muslim men, women, and children, and we're talking about 30,000, they say, right now, who were killed? And how does that work? How do we reconcile that? Now, look, I'm a priest. I'm not a politician. I'm going to simply tell you what the Israelis say and what the Arabs say, and you make up your mind, okay? I'm not involved in this and that. Both have blood on their hands. I've been there 37 years. I've seen the situation, but listen to what they have to say. I was with an Israeli colonel who was in Gaza, and he came up to Jerusalem, and we got talking, and I was asking this question about how many innocent men, women, and Palestinian children were killed so far in Gaza, Palestinians. And he said, Father Peter, do you know that before we make an attack on a particular area, we send SMS messages to the people living there saying, leave, because in 2 days there's going to be rockets and invasion of these areas. Now, people have a choice to know either stay or not stay. They send thousands of leaflets to the same area saying, please leave. So they've been warned twice, okay? Unfortunately, if they don't leave, of course, you're leaving your home, you have to go down to the south, etc. It's difficult, I understand. But if they stay, they get killed. But he said to me, Father Peter, World War II, what about the Allied bombers, American and British, who killed over 1 million innocent men, women, and children in Germany, in Italy, and in Hiroshima? What was the response of the Americans? Nothing. Why? Because they said, well, it's a just war, man. They're the enemy. The Germans are terrible. The Nazis are terrible. We have to kill them. That was the end of the conversation, okay? And so, in that sense, when I gave that argument, somebody said, well, today the technology is so strong that we can see people being killed. And when it's on TV, people see that, they get upset about it. Well, the killings were doing the same with the innocent men, women, and children in Germany, Italy, and Hiroshima. So, this is how he feels about the situation. He says, war is hell. And what else are you going to do about it? Excuse me. Now, from the Hamas side, they say, we will do this again and again and again to the Israeli people. 71% of the Palestinians, not just in Gaza, all over, said that what the Hamas did was justified. 71%, okay? And 62% realized that this was the way to realize their national aspirations through armed struggle. Yet 37% of those in Gaza felt Hamas was wrong. The other issues for the Palestinian Muslims has been the gradual and the confiscation of Palestinian land. Number two, the increased number of Jewish settlements on Palestinian land, rationing water in Bethlehem. People sometimes, they control the water, and sometimes you only have water maybe once a week for 2 days, okay? And the return of Palestinian refugees. Now you heard, of course, in the news that the Hamas is saying, we will withdraw everything, but we want you on condition that you go back to the pre-1967 borders. Well, that ain't going to happen, folks, okay? It's never going to happen. They talk about a two-state solution. That ain't going to happen. As much as President Biden's pushing that, both sides, large percentages do not want each other next to each other. And if they did have a Palestinian state, Israelis would have no control whatsoever. They would take the northern border over, and people can come from all sorts of different other hostile Muslim territories, causing more and more problems. So that's not going to happen. In regards to our Christians, Grand Prior Robinson mentioned the number of people, etc. There are 3 churches there. There's the Holy Family Catholic Church, as the Grand Prior mentioned. There's the Greek Orthodox Church, Porphyrios Greek Orthodox, and the Gaza Baptist Church, which no longer exists. In December of 2023, the Greek Orthodox Church was hit by an Israeli airstrike, killing 18 Christians, okay? And then in the Holy Family, there was a lady, a Christian lady, she would have to be Catholic, it doesn't matter who it is, it's still human beings, who wanted to check some things outside the perimeter, which she should never have done. and she was shot and killed by a sniper, and it had to be an Israeli sniper because that whole area was in Israel. And the son came out, he was wounded, and then the daughter came out again, and she was shot to death. So these are things you don't really read about that's going on over there, and it's very, very scary. Right now, 20 Christians were killed by bombings. 10 Christians have passed away due to the absence of needed medicine, and 50 Christians are still missing. As far as the humanitarian aid, Jordan, Arab Emirates, and now the USA have delivered tons of food, water, and clothing both to the northern and southern part of Gaza. But one of the real problems is when those drops are made, the Hamas are there to grab it, to steal it, and take it away from where it was intended to the people of Gaza. And so what they do is they put it on the black market. They try to sell it, obviously. How can they sell it? Because what the economy is there in Gaza. So this is one of the concerns that the Israelis say, and they say, this is not my problem. We're not here to distribute food. And remember, you saw that one thing, there were people who just ransacked the trucks. Some were killed, etc. So it's a very difficult situation. Right now, Biden is going to build a strip. It's going to take about 5-6 weeks to bring food in through the strip for that. But who's going to control that? Who's going to control that it doesn't get into Hamas' hands again? Okay. On a more positive note, which you will not read about in the newspapers, about a month ago, the Franciscans contacted the Italian Minister of Defense, and we spoke with the IDF headquarters in Gaza, and they both agreed we have taken over 160 kids who were wounded. We have brought them into Rome to 5 different hospitals. They are being in rehabilitation. They're wounded. Some have to be amputations, etc. And they're convalescing. After they convalesce, we are bringing them back to their mothers and fathers in Gaza. Nobody knows that. And it's the Franciscan Foundation and the friars who are doing that. So I'm really proud of that. Nobody ever hears about that. So needless to say, the patriarchs and heads of Christian churches in the Holy Land have issued many, many statements about the war in Gaza, and generally speaking on the following concerns. Pleas for a ceasefire, while at the same time decrying the violence stemming from these ongoing hostilities in the Gaza Strip and the unjust killings from both parties. Secondly, the war unfortunately will not lead to peace and justice. Rather, it will bring more hatred and hostilities in the future. And thirdly, calls on the international community to intervene immediately to stop the confrontation. I've been there 36 years, and there have been 16 peace accords, starting with Oslo, Madrid, etc., etc. And every peace accord, this is it. We're going to have peace between the two people. Never exists. Military victories, people, will never bring about security. Only peace built on justice and human rights will bring about security. The thought of one side crushing the other must be eliminated. It's all been proven futile, hasn't it? Yes. What have we got from it all? We can definitely see that the Israeli and Palestinians are in a peace-security conundrum. Israelis will not be able to enjoy peace and security until what? Until Palestinians have achieved more control over their lives and their land, and Palestinians will not fully realize peace and justice until Israel feels a great sense of security. Extremists on both sides understand this bind and have exploited it with their tactics. Each of them, the Israelis and the Palestinians, are looking at this bloody event from their own perspective. In other words, what is it? It is Palestinian nationalism and Jewish Israeli nationalism. In many ways, I think the Franciscan and other Christian leaders are advocating for dialogue, empathy, and international assistance to address the conflicts plaguing the region. You know, when the war began, Christians were out of a job due to the fact that the majority of them, as Grand Prior said, they were working in the hospitality industry, okay? The same thing with COVID. When COVID came, for those 2.5 years, finished. The economy went dead. And what did the Christians? They had nothing. And of course, you as the order helped with us with the Franciscan Foundation and the Knights and Ladies of the Holy Sepulchre to help these Christians in the West Bank and in Jerusalem. And this is going back the same thing again. Now we're trying to help the people. Most of the money goes to what? It goes to help them to pay for past rents. They're being evicted and they have no money, they have no job. So we've put out $175,000 into that to help the people in Bethlehem and Jerusalem. That doesn't solve all the problems. They have a lot more people. So the Franciscan Foundation has been very active in that. You know, I have just two personal thoughts about the wall. And that is that all these men, women, and children, especially the men, who have lost their fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, are going to be the new Hamas against Israel. You can get as many Hamas people as you want, and they're still going to be around, but this is going to create more hatred against what they did to their families, etc. You know, I've said many times before, Palestinian Muslims and Israeli Jewish people have a great dislike, a hatred, a distrust of one another. And what have they done? They pass it on to their children's children. And guess what? It's become embedded in the psychological DNA of both sides. There are people, there will never be peace there. I can tell you right now. Both are Semitic. Remember, it goes back to where? Remember Abraham with Hagar, and you had Isaac, then you had Ishmael, and then Abraham said bye-bye to Ishmael and to Hagar, and the Arabs considered that is their founder. So the enmity as brothers was so strong, it continues even today. Another thing that I thought was interesting is when Secretary of State, what's his name, Brinkley? I don't know.
Blinken.
Yeah, whatever. And he said, we have to get these refugees to the fellow Muslim countries. And so he asked to send thousands of fellow Muslims to fellow Islamic countries. And what happened? Saudi Arabia said no. Jordan said no. Egypt said no. And why did they say no? Because they were afraid that they would infiltrate their countries and cause problems. So you have that constant concern. So in conclusion, one can see how complex this situation is in the Holy Land, and especially in Gaza. What will happen if and when the war finishes? Who will really be the victor? Will Israel be successful in getting rid of the Hamas? Will there be an additional conflict with the Hezbollah in Lebanon in the north? These are questions that have unknown answers. Ideally, what is needed in the end for both sides is to find creative energies to engage in with each other in promoting a common home in which all live in equality, justice, mutual respect, and peace. Will that ever happen depends on how many complicated variables there are. Thank you very much. God bless.